The sun is high, a relentless glare reflecting off the choppy Atlantic swells. Captain David Morehouse stands on the deck of the brigantine Dei Gratia, his eyes scanning the horizon, a familiar ritual. But today, something is different. A speck, then a shape, emerges through the haze, a vessel, unmistakably a brigantine, drifting aimlessly, its sails oddly configured, a silent, lonely silhouette against the vast blue. He orders a change of course, a natural instinct to offer aid at sea, but a growing unease settles over him. As they draw closer, the ship reveals itself, the Mary Celeste. She's rolling gently, a ghost in the daylight, her deck eerily empty. No one waves, no one responds to their hails. The silence is profound, absolute. A boarding party is dispatched, their footsteps echoing on the wooden deck of the derelict craft. The captain's cabin is entered, then the galley, the crew quarters, the cargo hold. Each door opens to reveal an absence, a void where life should be. A sewing machine, still with fabric under the needle. A child's small doll, forgotten. A table set for breakfast, plates still laden with food, untouched. There's no sign of struggle, no distress, no violence. Not a single drop of blood. It's as if every living soul simply evaporated. The ship is sound, seaworthy, with ample provisions and cargo intact. Yet Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and the 7 crew members are gone. Vanished. What happened on board the Mary Celeste to cause 10 people to abandon a perfectly good ship? But to understand how we got here, how a ship could become such a silent monument to absence, we need to go back to the bustling docks of New York City in the autumn of 1872. The brigantine Mary Celeste was preparing for her voyage, a routine transatlantic crossing bound for Genoa, Italy. She was a robust vessel, 103 feet long, built in Nova Scotia, and despite a somewhat checkered early history, including a grounding and a collision, she was considered a strong, reliable ship, recently refitted and in excellent condition. Her captain was Benjamin Spooner Briggs, a man of profound faith, a teetotaler, and an experienced mariner from a long line of seafaring men from Marion, Massachusetts. At 37 years old, Captain Briggs was respected, meticulous, and known for his cautious nature. This was no reckless adventurer. With him on board were his wife, Sarah Elizabeth Cobb Briggs, and their beloved 2-year-old daughter, Sophia Matilda Briggs. Their elder son, Arthur, remained at home for school, a decision that would inadvertently save his life. The crew, a mix of seasoned sailors and younger hands, were mostly German and Danish, hired for the transatlantic journey, their names now irrevocably tied to maritime legend. First Mate Albert C. Richardson, Second Mate Andrew Gilling, Steward Edward W. Head and Seaman Volkert Lorenzen, Arian Martins, Boyce, and Fosdick. They were ordinary people, preparing for an ordinary voyage, loading their cargo of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, dreaming of safe passage and fair winds. They believed they were embarking on just another job, a journey like countless others. What they didn't know was that this particular journey would sever their lives from the world in a way no one could have predicted. The year 1872 was a crossroads for global trade. The age of sail was slowly giving way to steam, but brigantines like the Mary Celeste still plied the vast oceans, connecting continents and delivering vital goods. The transatlantic routes were well established, but they were far from safe. The North Atlantic, particularly, was a brutal, unpredictable environment. Storms could materialize without warning, powerful enough to splinter hulls and tear sails to shreds. Piracy, though declining, was still a lingering threat in certain areas, particularly around the Mediterranean. Beyond natural dangers, the sea was rife with disease, accidents, and the inherent risks of working on a wooden vessel at the mercy of the elements. Navigation, though aided by chronometers and sextants, remained an art as much as a science, reliant on precise observations and constant vigilance. For a captain like Briggs, every voyage was a test of skill, endurance, and faith. Marine insurance was a booming business, underwriters calculating the odds of a vessel reaching its destination versus succumbing to the myriad perils of the deep. A ship's fate could turn on a single gust of wind, a hidden shoal, or a sudden squall. These were not luxury cruises. These were arduous journeys, often lasting weeks or months, demanding resilience from everyone on board. The Mary Celeste was no stranger to these realities, having completed several successful transatlantic voyages, carrying its precious cargo across thousands of miles of open water. Her crew understood the risks, accepted them as part of their profession, and held onto the hope of returning to their families. Yet the fate awaiting them transcended the common dangers of the sea, plunging them into a mystery that would forever haunt the annals of maritime lore. The Mary Celeste cast off from Staten Island, New York on November 7, 1872, bound for Genoa, Italy, with a cargo valued at $35,000, 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. Just 8 days prior, on October 29, the Asterisk Dei Gratia, captained by Benjamin Briggs's longtime friend David Morehouse, had also departed from New York, heading to Genoa with a cargo of petroleum. Their paths, unbeknownst to them, were destined to intersect in the most unsettling way. The Mary Celeste Asterisk's departure itself was unremarkable, a smooth operation typical of Captain Briggs's efficient command. The weather forecast was fair, the ship was provisioned for 6 months, and the crew, though diverse in nationality, seemed competent enough. There were no omens, no whispers of discontent, no mechanical failures that might suggest impending disaster. It was a perfectly ordinary, beginning to what should have been a perfectly ordinary voyage. Captain Briggs meticulously recorded the ship's position and the daily conditions in his logbook, a practice he had followed for decades. The initial days passed with the steady rhythm of life at sea. Sails trimmed, meals cooked, watches stood. Sarah Briggs would have overseen Sophia's daily routine, perhaps reading to her or helping her play with her doll, oblivious to the fact that these simple moments were finite. The greatest concern at the time would have been the sheer boredom of the long journey, not any sense of dread or impending catastrophe. Yet within weeks, this seemingly innocuous departure would lead to a disappearance so absolute, it would challenge every assumption about the safety and predictability of maritime travel, leaving behind a profound and lingering sense of unease. The initial days of the voyage were uneventful, but as the Asterisk Mary Celeste sailed further east, away from the familiar shipping lanes, the sea began to assert its capricious nature. Reports from other vessels in the region around mid-November spoke of unusually severe weather, heavy gales, and treacherous squalls that swept through the Atlantic. While the Asterisk Mary Celeste Asterisk's log entries remained calm and routine up to November 25th, it is highly probable that she encountered at least some of these punishing conditions. A seasoned captain like Briggs would have weathered many storms, but the sustained intensity of such gales could test even the most experienced mariner and the sturdiest of ships. Imagine the violent lurching, the deck awash with icy spray, the constant creak and groan of the ship's timbers, the frantic cries of the wind through the rigging. Below deck, the confined space would have been a maelstrom of shifting objects and rising panic. For Sarah Briggs and young Sophia, trapped in their cabin, the relentless pitching and rolling would have been terrifying, a constant battle against seasickness and the fear that the vessel might at any moment succumb to the ocean's fury. This kind of sustained stress can erode even the strongest resolve, creating a desperate longing for solid ground, a primal instinct to escape the churning abyss. It's during such moments that perceived dangers can become exaggerated, and rational thought can be momentarily overshadowed by the overwhelming power of nature. While not a definitive answer to their fate, this brutal encounter with the sea would have been the first real challenge, a harrowing experience that might have subtly set the stage for a tragic decision to come. The ship and its crew survived the storm, but something had fundamentally shifted. And then the record simply stopped. On December 4, 1872, nearly a month after the Mary Celeste departed New York, Captain David Morehouse stood on the quarterdeck of his own brigantine, the Asterisk Dei Gratia, some 600 miles west of Gibraltar. The sea was calm, the day clear. It was then that his sharp eyes spotted a sail on the horizon, behaving erratically. This was the first sighting of the Mary Celeste by another human being since Briggs had made his last log entry on November 25th, 9 days prior. The approaching vessel was tacking strangely, her sails partly set, but clearly not under proper command. There was no flag, no apparent crew on deck. Morehouse, recognizing the Mary Celeste through his spyglass and realizing it was his friend Briggs's ship, grew increasingly concerned. After an hour of observation and no response to his signals, he dispatched his first mate, Oliver DeVoe, along with 2 other crew members, to board the vessel. DeVoe later testified to the salvage court, describing the eerie silence as they approached, the ship bobbing gently, like a baby in its cradle, but utterly deserted. His initial steps onto the deck were met with an unnatural stillness. The main hatch was securely battened down, but the forehatch leading to the forecastle was wide open. The binnacle which held the compass was knocked askew, its glass broken. A single pump was missing, its sounding rod lying beside it. And perhaps most unsettling of all, the ship's lifeboat, a small yawl, was gone, the davits from which it hung swung outwards. Something profoundly disturbing had occurred, a sudden, swift event that compelled 10 people to leave a perfectly sound vessel and embark into the unforgiving ocean in a small open boat. But as DeVoe explored further, the ship's condition only deepened the mystery. The sheer lack of chaos didn't add up. Initial speculation, fueled by the sensational press, immediately gravitated towards the most dramatic possibilities: violent mutiny, a savage pirate attack, or even the dreaded Kraken, a mythical sea monster. Everything pointed one way, towards a sudden, catastrophic event that forced the crew to abandon ship or perish. The missing lifeboat, the broken binnacle, these details seemed to support a desperate flight. But then, as the boarding party from the *de Gracia conducted a more thorough inspection, a different, far more unsettling picture began to emerge, one that defied easy explanation. If pirates had boarded the Mary Celeste *, why was the cargo of valuable industrial alcohol untouched? Over 1,700 barrels of a highly sought-after commodity remained perfectly stowed in the hold. If mutiny, where was the evidence of struggle? No bloodstains, no bullet holes, no signs of a fight whatsoever. The captain's personal effects, including his expensive chronometer and sextant, invaluable navigational instruments, were found undisturbed in his cabin. The ship's paperwork, including the logbook, was present, though the most recent entries ended abruptly. The crew's belongings, their pipes, their clothing, their personal items, were all left behind. Even Sarah Briggs's sewing machine, with a half-finished piece of fabric, sat calmly in her quarters. There were 6 months' worth of provisions, food, and fresh water still on board. The ship was not sinking, not burning, not badly damaged. The Mary Celeste was perfectly seaworthy, apart from a few tattered sails and water sloshing below deck from a faulty pump. This was not the scene of a massacre, nor a chaotic abandonment in the face of imminent sinking. This was a scene of order, of quiet departure, a tableau of suspended life. The contradiction was stark and chilling, an abandoned ship, yet no reason for abandonment that aligned with the dramatic theories. The true horror lay in the normalcy of the deserted vessel. What the pivot revealed was a nuanced tapestry of details that deepened the mystery rather than resolving it. The primary logbook was found in the mate's cabin, containing entries up to November 25th at 5 a.m. A slate, often used for temporary notes before transcribing into the main log, was also found, with entries dated through December 1st, giving the last known position of the Mary Celeste as 37 degrees 1N 27 degrees 20W, some 100 miles west of the Azores. This crucial detail indicated that the crew was still aboard, or at least someone was maintaining records, nearly a week after the last official logbook entry, and only 3 days before the *de Gracia sighted the ship. The chronometer, a vital timekeeping instrument for navigation, was found in its proper place, still ticking, indicating that a sudden, disorienting event could not have been the cause, as the crew would surely have taken it if they had planned to navigate a lifeboat. The sextant, another indispensable tool, was also in its case. These items were essential for survival and navigation at sea. Their abandonment was almost unthinkable for experienced mariners like Briggs and his crew. Furthermore, a single sounding rod used to measure water in the bilge was found on deck, lying next to the missing pump. This strongly suggested that the pump had been recently used, and perhaps even hastily removed, potentially for inspection or repair. Why would a crew, concerned enough to sound the bilge and perhaps investigate a pump, then suddenly abandon their vessel without taking their most valuable instruments? These subtle yet profound inconsistencies suggested that whatever compelled the crew to leave, it was neither a full-scale, life-threatening emergency nor a leisurely, planned departure. It was something in between, a hasty, collective decision made under pressure, perhaps in the grip of a perceived threat that, in hindsight, never truly materialized. Beyond the perplexing facts and theories lies the human cost, the personal tragedy of those lost. Consider Sarah Elizabeth Cobb Briggs, Captain Briggs's wife, a woman of 31 who had chosen to accompany her husband on this long voyage, bringing their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia Matilda, along. For Sarah, life at sea was not a novelty. She had sailed with Benjamin before, sharing the solitude and beauty, but also the inherent dangers. Her presence, and that of Sophia, speaks volumes about the perceived safety of the voyage and Captain Briggs's deep trust in his ship and his abilities. Imagine Sarah in her cabin, perhaps reading from her Bible or tending to Sophia, singing lullabies as the ship rolled gently in the swells. Sophia at 2 would have been a vibrant, curious presence, her laughter a fleeting echo against the vastness of the ocean. Her small cloth doll found in her bunk is a poignant detail that cuts through the historical distance, reminding us of the tender innocence lost. Was Sophia clinging to her mother when the decision was made to evacuate? Did she understand the urgency in her parents' voices, the fear in their eyes as they were bundled into a small lifeboat, leaving behind everything familiar? The last tangible evidence of their presence points to an absence of alarm, an ordinary life continuing right up until the point of departure. This makes their disappearance all the more chilling. They were not abstract figures in a historical footnote. They were a family, with hopes, dreams, and futures extinguished in the cold, indifferent waters of the Atlantic. Their story reminds us that beneath every grand mystery lies the heart-wrenching loss of individual lives, each a world unto itself, abruptly silenced. The image of Sophia's doll, still nestled in her bunk, waiting for a return that would never come, is perhaps the most haunting detail of all, a silent testament to a life tragically unlived. The discovery of the Mary Celeste and the subsequent salvage claim initiated a formal investigation in Gibraltar, presided over by Frederick Solly Flood, the Attorney General. From the outset, the inquiry was fraught with suspicion and skepticism, primarily directed at Captain Morehouse and his crew from the *de Gracia. Solly Flood, convinced of foul play, immediately suspected that Morehouse and Briggs had conspired to commit insurance fraud, or worse, that Morehouse's crew had murdered the Mary Celeste *S crew and then set the ship adrift to claim salvage rights. His aggressive questioning and predetermined conclusions shaped much of the early narratives surrounding the mystery. Solly Flood meticulously pointed out apparent signs of violence, supposed bloodstains which later turned out to be rust, a sword found with a suspicious reddish stain, also rust or dried pigment, and alleged axe marks on the bow. He refused to entertain the idea of an accidental or natural explanation, even as evidence mounted against his theories. The fact that the ship's logbook ended abruptly and the state of the broken binnacle were interpreted by him as clear indications of a violent struggle. This official investigation, instead of seeking objective truth, became an exercise in accusation and dismissal, effectively muddying the waters and planting seeds of doubt that persisted for decades. The intense scrutiny and the implication of criminal intent against Morehouse meant that a clear, unbiased assessment of the Mary Celeste *S condition and the implications of the missing crew were sidelined. Who benefited from this narrative of suspicion? Perhaps no one directly, but the sensationalism surrounding the perceived cover-up ensured that the true, unsettling nature of the disappearance remained obscured, replaced by wild conjectures and unproven allegations. The inquiry closed without definitive answers, but the taint of suspicion against the *de Gracia ensured that any reasonable explanation was initially drowned out by the clamor for a dramatic resolution, leaving the real mystery untouched and deepening the enigmatic silence of the sea. Despite Solly Flood's initial biases, a more systematic, albeit limited, investigation of the Mary Celeste did take place. Naval surveyors and salvage experts thoroughly examined the ship. Their findings were critical in debunking the more sensational theories. They confirmed that the hull was sound, with no significant damage that would lead to sinking. The cargo of raw alcohol, despite its volatile nature, was found to be perfectly intact, ruling out an explosion in the hold. They noted that the main hatch was securely covered, while the smaller forehatch leading to the crew's quarters was open. This detail hinted not at an external threat, but perhaps an internal one or an urgent inspection. The compass binnacle was indeed broken, indicating some form of impact or rapid movement, but not necessarily a struggle. Crucially, the ship's register papers and the captain's navigation instruments, sextant, chronometer, were all found in their proper places. This was a significant anomaly. Sailors, even in a frantic abandonment, would almost certainly attempt to secure these vital tools for survival and navigation in an open boat. Their presence suggested a hasty departure, but one not born of immediate, catastrophic peril where every second counted for life itself. The only significant items missing were the ship's log slate, which was found later, and the lifeboat, which confirmed the crew's deliberate, albeit puzzling, decision to leave the ship. The 6-month supply of provisions and water, largely untouched, further solidified the idea that the crew had not been starved or dehydrated off the vessel. The lack of any personal effects from the crew, such as their pipes, books, or small trinkets, indicated a rapid, unplanned evacuation where such sentimental items were left behind in the rush. The objective findings painted a picture of a ship that was surprisingly normal, save for the profound, terrifying emptiness of its decks, challenging every conventional explanation for such a complete disappearance. In the vacuum of hard evidence, human imagination inevitably rushes in to fill the void, giving rise to a cascade of sensational and ultimately false answers. The Mary Celeste became a canvas for every maritime horror story imaginable. Tales of giant squids or other monstrous sea creatures dragging the crew into the depths became popular, fueled by sensationalist fiction of the era. However, the ship's lack of structural damage, with no claw marks or massive indentations on the hull, decisively disproved these fantastic claims. Piracy was another frequently cited theory, and indeed, a ship found abandoned with valuable cargo would typically point to such a conclusion. Yet, as noted, the Mary Celeste *S cargo was untouched, and all personal valuables, including money and expensive navigational instruments, remained on board. Pirates interested solely in plunder would never have left such riches behind. Mutiny also gained traction, suggesting a violent uprising by the crew against Captain Briggs. But again, the utter absence of any bloodstains, signs of struggle, or weapons used in a fight made this theory untenable. The ship's condition suggested an orderly, if hasty, departure, not a bloody confrontation. Perhaps the most enduring and least rational explanation involves paranormal activity, ghosts, curses, or even alien abduction, particularly popularized by later fiction and pseudoscientific investigations. These theories thrive on the absence of logical explanations, yet they provide no tangible evidence, relying instead on pure speculation and the human desire for a fantastical narrative. While these tales make for compelling reading and thrilling campfire stories, they fail the fundamental tests of logic and evidence. The official explanation that the ship was abandoned in a panic induced by some unseen or misjudged event, while true in essence, offered no specific mechanism for the abandonment, leaving the public unsatisfied and fueling the endless stream of unsubstantiated claims. The real horror of the Mary Celeste is not a monster or a ghost, but the terrifying simplicity of a decision that led to absolute, inexplicable loss. The most credible theory, painstakingly pieced together by maritime historians and scientists, eschews the fantastical for a scenario rooted in the realities of 19th-century seafaring and basic chemistry. It centers on the Mary Celeste *S volatile cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. These barrels, while sealed, were known to leak small amounts of highly flammable ethanol vapor, particularly during rough seas or temperature fluctuations. During a severe storm, the pitching and rolling of the ship could have caused some barrels to shift, leading to more significant leaks. The open fore hatch observed by the *de Gracia crew could be crucial here. It's plausible that a buildup of alcohol fumes in the ship's hold, perhaps concentrated by poor ventilation, caused Captain Briggs to suspect an imminent explosion. While the fumes themselves might not have been visible or immediately damaging, the potent smell and the understanding of alcohol's flammability would have been terrifying to a cautious captain like Briggs, especially with his wife and child on board. The missing pump and sounding rod suggest he was indeed checking for water in the bilge, but perhaps also for the source of an alarming sound or smell. The theory posits that Briggs, fearing the entire ship was about to ignite or explode, ordered the ship temporarily abandoned. The crew would have quickly lowered the yawl lifeboat, tied it to the Mary Celeste with a long towline, and moved to a safe distance, intending to wait for the fumes to disperse or the perceived danger to pass. They would have taken essential items, but in the haste, perhaps not everything. What followed would be a tragic confluence of misjudgment and circumstance. The towline snapping due to rough weather or accidental damage, leaving the small lifeboat adrift and at the mercy of the vast Atlantic, unable to regain the now drifting Mary Celeste. The ship, having ridden out the storm and cleared its fumes, would then sail on, a silent testament to a family and crew lost to a catastrophic misunderstanding, a decision made in fear that proved irreversible. We have explored theories of chemical reactions, sudden squalls, and desperate decisions made under duress. We've sifted through the evidence, debunked the sensational, and gravitated towards the most rational explanation. Yet for all the meticulous reconstruction, for all the scientific and historical inquiry, there remains one profoundly disturbing fact that permeates the entire enigma of the Mary Celeste: the absolute, unyielding silence of the ship itself. It's not merely that 10 people vanished. It's that they vanished without leaving a single, undeniable trace of *Y. No distress signal, no written last words, no evidence of struggle or violence, no bodies, not even a single personal note or clue left in their wake. The ship was not torn apart, its decks not stained with blood, its timbers not scorched by fire. It sailed on, a perfect vessel, carrying all the hallmarks of daily life, yet utterly devoid of life. The greatest horror is the sheer, overwhelming normality of the scene, contrasted with the abnormality of the absence. A half-eaten meal, a child's toy, a sewing machine mid-stitch, these small details do not speak of a cataclysm, but of an interruption. An abrupt, unexplained, and definitive cessation of human presence, a blank slate where a profound tragedy should be etched in vivid detail. This chilling lack of finality, this perfect emptiness, denies us the closure of understanding. It suggests a moment of decision, a collective choice perhaps born of fear that led every soul on board to step off their perfectly good vessel into the unknown, never to return. The Mary Celeste isn't just a ghost ship, it's a floating question mark, eternally silent, eternally empty, a stark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying answers are the ones that never arrive, leaving us to grapple with an unbearable, eternal void. And that in itself is a fate far more disturbing than any pirate raid or sea monster attack. The story of the Mary Celeste endures not just as a historical footnote, but as a chilling allegory for the unpredictable nature of existence and the terrifying power of the unknown. It reminds us that even with the best intentions, the most experienced hands, and a sound vessel, the vastness and indifference of the ocean can swallow lives whole, leaving behind only questions and the spectral image of a ship sailing on, forever empty. The mystery challenges our fundamental need for resolution, for cause and effect, for a neat explanation. It forces us to confront the unsettling possibility that some truths simply remain out of reach, lost to the depths of the sea or the fleeting moments of human panic and error. The Mary Celeste remains a silent monument to the 10 souls who vanished, their fate sealed by a decision we can only guess at, their final moments forever obscured by the relentless waves. It forces us to acknowledge that some chapters of history are written in disappearing ink, fading into legend, leaving us to wonder about the last thoughts, the last words, the last desperate hope of Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew. What does this tell us about human nature? It speaks to our vulnerability, our capacity for both meticulous planning and sudden, desperate misjudgment. It underscores the enduring power of the sea, an entity that, even in an age of advancing technology, can still render humans utterly powerless. And perhaps most profoundly, it speaks to the enduring human fascination with the unexplained, the dark corners of history where reason fails and speculation reigns. The Mary Celeste isn't just a tale of a ghost ship, it's a mirror reflecting our deepest fears of the unknown, an unsolved puzzle that continues to whisper from the depths. If this kept you up at night, subscribe. We post dark history every week.